Meet Sarah. Sarah is smart. She reads about personal finance. She knows she should be investing. She's watched the videos, downloaded the apps, made the budgets. And every single month, she ends up in roughly the same place she started. Not because she's lazy. Not because she lacks discipline. Because her brain, the same brain that got humans through 40,000 years of survival, is actively working against her financial future. And the worst part? The mistakes don't feel like mistakes. They feel completely rational. They feel like common sense. They feel like the obvious thing to do. My name is Astrid,
As you can
and
see,
today
the
we're
trap's
going to
metrics
follow
are
Sarah
steadily
through the
increasing.
5 cognitive
is that a
traps
good
that
thing?
silently
Yes, it's a very
destroy
positive
most
trend.
people's financial lives. Not abstract concepts. Actual moments. The Tuesday afternoon when she checked her investment app. The Saturday she drove past the dealership. The Sunday she opened Instagram and felt something shift. By the end of this video, you're going to recognize these patterns in your own life, probably uncomfortably clearly. And more importantly, you're going to have specific overrides. Not motivation. Not willpower. Actual structural fixes that work with your brain instead of demanding that it change. Because here's the truth nobody leads with. Your brain isn't designed for wealth. It's designed for survival. And until you understand the difference, every budget you make and every savings plan you start will feel like swimming upstream. Quick note, I'm not a psychologist or financial advisor. This is behavioral economics research filtered through years of watching how people actually interact with money versus how they think they do. Let's follow Sarah. Sarah is 31. She earns $68,000 a year, above the national median. She has some savings. A small investment account she opened 2 years ago and hasn't really touched. Some credit card debt she's been almost done with for about 18 months. On paper, she should be fine. In practice, she feels perpetually behind. She is not unusual. She is, in fact, exactly average in the most important sense. Her brain is running the same financial software as almost everyone else. Software that was written for a world where survival meant consuming everything available right now, because tomorrow was genuinely uncertain. In that world, saving was irrational. Delayed gratification was dangerous. Spending everything immediately was the smart move. Sarah is walking around with a financial operating system that is 40,000 years out of date. So is everyone else, including you. The question isn't whether these biases are running in your brain. They are. The question is whether you've built systems to override them, or whether you're still trying to out-willpower a 40,000-year-old program. Here are the 5 that are doing the most damage. Bias 1. Present bias. It's Wednesday evening. Sarah just got paid. She opens her banking app. She sees $2,800 in her checking account. She has a standing plan, a promise she made to herself last month to transfer $400 into her investment account immediately on payday. She hovers over the transfer button. And then she thinks, rent is in 2 weeks. The car needs an oil change. Her sister's birthday is coming up. What if something comes up? Maybe she'll just transfer $200 this month and do the full $400 next month. She transfers $200. Next month, the same thing happens. Different reasons. Same result. This is present bias. And it is the single most financially destructive feature of the human brain. Present bias is the tendency to overvalue immediate rewards relative to future ones, not by a little, but by a lot. The enjoyment or relief available right now is weighted dramatically heavier than the equivalent thing available in the future. Not because Sarah is irrational. Because this is how every human brain is wired. Here's the research that makes this concrete. If you offer someone $100 today or $110 in a week, most people take the $100. Mathematically insane, a 10% weekly return is extraordinary. But the pull of now is stronger than the pull of next week. Offer the same choice set entirely in the future, $100 in 12 months or $110 in 13 months, and suddenly most people wait the extra month. Both options feel abstract and distant, so the extra $10 is worth waiting for. That asymmetry, present moments feel categorically different from future moments, is present bias. And it's why Sarah's investment contributions keep shrinking on payday. The thing about present bias that makes it especially vicious, when Sarah plans her future behavior, she genuinely intends to do better. She means it when she commits to $400. The version of her making the plan and the version of her executing it are operating under completely different psychological conditions. You don't lose money because you're careless. You lose it because you're human. The override is not willpower. It's automation. Sarah needs to remove herself from the decision entirely. Automatic transfer, same day as payday, before the money feels available. Not $400 when she feels ready. $400 every single paycheck, moving before she can talk herself out of it. When she eventually does this, 3 months after watching a video exactly like this one, she notices something she didn't expect. She stops thinking about whether to invest. The decision has already been made. The version of her who is calm and rational made it in advance. The version of her who is tired on a Wednesday evening never gets to override it. Bias 2. Loss aversion. It's a Tuesday afternoon in March. Sarah opens her investment app to check something unrelated and sees a number she wasn't prepared for. Her portfolio is down 18% from its peak. Her $8,400 balance now shows $6,900. $1,500 gone. On screen. Right now. Her stomach drops. She knows, intellectually, she genuinely knows, that this is temporary. That long-term investors don't sell in downturns. That the rational move is to do nothing. She knows this because she's read about it. She's seen this exact scenario described in exactly the terms she's currently experiencing. She sells $3,000 of her index fund positions anyway. Just to stop the bleeding. Just until things stabilize. This is loss aversion. And it is the reason individual investors consistently underperform the markets they invest in. Here's the research finding that reframes everything. Losses hurt approximately twice as much as equivalent gains feel good. The subjective pain of losing $100 is psychologically equivalent to the joy of gaining $200. Which means the emotional accounting your brain runs on financial decisions is systematically skewed against the math. This isn't a character flaw. It's a structural feature of human psychology. It was useful, being more sensitive to losses than gains kept your ancestors alive in environments where a single bad outcome could be fatal. In your investment portfolio, it quietly destroys your returns. The disposition effect is where this gets particularly backwards. Because of loss aversion, the typical investor does precisely the opposite of what they should. They sell winning investments too early, locking in gains before they disappear, and hold losing investments too long, waiting to break even. Let the winners go. Cling to the losers. It's financially catastrophic and feels completely natural. Sarah sold at the dip. She bought back in 5 months later when she felt confident again. The market had already recovered. She paid more for the same shares. She locked in the loss and missed the recovery. The override is a pre-committed policy written before the panic. Not a general intention. A specific document. If my portfolio drops 30%, I will increase contributions rather than decrease them. I will not sell any equity positions. I will review this in 12 months. Written. Signed. Stored somewhere you can find it in a market correction. Making the decision in advance, when you're calm, when you understand the math, takes it out of the hands of the version of you who opens the app on a bad Tuesday afternoon. Also, stop checking daily. Seriously. Every time Sarah opens her investment app, she is activating her loss aversion response unnecessarily. Quarterly reviews. That's it. The market doesn't need your attention to compound. Bias 3. Social comparison. Saturday afternoon. Sarah is scrolling. Her college friend just posted photos from Tulum. Another friend announced they're buying a house. Someone she barely knows is showing off a kitchen renovation that looks like a magazine spread. And then, the one that hits different, her coworker Marcus, same job, same salary, posts a photo of a new car. Sarah puts her phone down. Looks at her apartment. Feels something she can't quite name. It's not jealousy exactly. It's more like a quiet, persistent sense that she's behind. That everyone else figured something out that she hasn't. That the life she has is somehow less than it should be. This is social comparison. And it is silently redirecting her financial decisions in ways she doesn't fully recognize. Human beings do not evaluate their financial situation in absolute terms. They evaluate it relative to a comparison group. This is not a character flaw, it's a feature of social cognition that was essential for survival in a tribal world. Knowing your status relative to your group had real consequences. But here's what's changed. Your comparison group used to be 30 or 40 people in your immediate vicinity. Now it's everyone on your feed, a curated, filtered, highlight reel version of the most aspirational moments of hundreds of people's lives. Your brain, built for tribal comparison, is treating this as if it's a representative sample of reality. It is not. Sarah's friend in Tulum went into credit card debt for that trip. The house purchase is stretching her budget to the edge. Marcus's car has a $580 monthly payment he privately hates. None of this is visible in the photos. But the comparison pressure is real regardless. And it's driving financial decisions that have nothing to do with what Sarah actually wants and everything to do with managing how she appears relative to people she's comparing herself to. The research is stark. People at higher absolute income levels but lower relative income report lower well-being than people at lower absolute income levels but higher relative income. Being the least wealthy person in a wealthy peer group feels genuinely worse than being the most financially stable person in a modest one, even when the objective numbers favor the former. In the age of curated social media, this bias has been turbocharged. And the financial industry knows it. Advertising is almost entirely built on manufactured social comparison. The car ad isn't selling you a vehicle. It's selling you the feeling of winning a comparison. The override is comparison group management. You cannot eliminate the comparison instinct, but you can deliberately choose who you're comparing yourself to. Unfollow accounts that consistently activate inadequacy. Follow people whose relationship with money you actually want to emulate, not people who display wealth, but people who demonstrate a healthy, intentional relationship with it. And periodically recalibrate your reference point against reality. Sarah, who is stressed about feeling behind, has more savings than approximately 60% of American adults. She has indoor plumbing, stable housing, regular meals, and internet access, a standard of living that the vast majority of humans who have ever lived would consider extraordinary. That context doesn't eliminate the comparison pressure, but it interrupts the distortion enough to make better decisions. Bias 4. The hedonic treadmill. Sarah gets a raise. $7,000 more per year. She is genuinely, meaningfully happy about this. For about 6 weeks. Then it becomes normal. The new paycheck is the baseline. The brief sense of relief and abundance settles back into the familiar low-grade financial anxiety. The number in her bank account is larger. The feeling isn't. 6 months after the raise, she has no idea where the extra money went. She isn't spending on anything dramatic. She's just spending a little more everywhere. The slightly nicer groceries. The streaming service she added. The meals out that used to feel like treats and now feel like just what she does on Thursdays. This is the hedonic treadmill. And it is why income growth so rarely translates into financial progress. The hedonic treadmill, also called hedonic adaptation, is the documented tendency for humans to return to a baseline level of satisfaction regardless of changes in circumstances. Win the lottery. Baseline happiness returns within 1 to 2 years. Suffer a serious injury. Baseline happiness also returns within a comparable period. The subjective experience stabilizes. Life becomes normal again. For Sarah's financial life, this creates a specific destruction pattern. She expected the raise to feel like more security, more breathing room, more satisfaction. And it did, briefly. But then her spending calibrated upward to match the new income, and her subjective experience of financial stress returned to roughly where it was before. The most damaging version of this is lifestyle inflation, the automatic expansion of spending every time income grows. Not dramatic. Not reckless. Just the quiet upward drift of what feels normal. The $15 lunch becoming the $20 lunch. The vacation budget that used to feel generous becoming the baseline. The apartment that seemed luxurious at 26 feeling just okay by 31. And here's the compounding tragedy. Because of hedonic adaptation, the lifestyle expansion doesn't even produce the sustained happiness it feels like it should. The new normal becomes normal. And you've permanently raised your cost structure without permanently raising your satisfaction. The override is intentional contrast and experience-based spending. Intentional contrast means periodically not upgrading. Not as punishment, as a reset. The research consistently shows that people who limit lifestyle inflation report higher sustained satisfaction from the same lifestyle compared to people who continuously upgrade. Because the baseline doesn't inflate and ordinary things continue to feel like gifts rather than just what's normal. Experience over things also helps. Research on hedonic adaptation shows that experiences adapt more slowly than material goods. The new car stops being exciting within months. The memory of a meaningful trip or evening stays subjectively rich much longer. If you're going to spend money in ways you hope will improve your quality of life, experiences are likely to give you more genuine mileage. Bias 5. Status quo bias. It's Sunday. Sarah is doing nothing in particular. Her savings account has been at the same bank since she was 19. It earns 0.1% interest. She knows there are high-yield accounts earning 40 times that. She's read about this. She's meant to switch for approximately 3 years. She doesn't switch today either. Her investment account still holds the same allocation she set up in her late 20s when she had a much longer time horizon and less clarity about her goals. She hasn't reviewed it since. She has 3 subscriptions she doesn't really use. She knows this. They're each under $20 a month, so they never quite feel urgent enough to cancel. Together, they're $588 a year. None of these feel like mistakes. They feel like nothing at all. That's the point. Status quo bias is the preference for the current state of affairs, the tendency to treat any change from the existing situation as a loss, even when the change is objectively beneficial. It's why default settings are so powerful. The option that's already set is the option that tends to stay. Research on this is remarkable. When employees are automatically enrolled in retirement plans and must opt out to stop contributing, participation approaches 90%. When they must opt in to start, it drops below 50%. Same people. Same plan. Same financial incentive. The only difference is what the default setting is. Sarah's entire financial life is a collection of defaults she set years ago and has never revisited. Not because she's lazy. Because the status quo feels like nothing, no decision required, no friction, no urgency. And change feels like effort, risk, loss. The system isn't broken. Her brain is just running defaults that nobody ever asked her to review. The override is a scheduled annual audit. Not a major overhaul. A single recurring appointment, same time every year, where you sit down with every financial account, every subscription, every insurance policy, every automatic payment, and ask one question. If I were setting this up today with everything I know now, would I set it up this way? Not, is there a specific reason to change this? That framing preserves the status quo unless you have an active reason to override it. The right question starts from neutral. Would I choose this if I were choosing fresh? Schedule it now. Literally put it in your calendar. Because status quo bias applies to the audit itself, you'll keep meaning to do it and keep not doing it unless you've made it a committed appointment rather than a good intention. Here's what Sarah discovers when she finally starts paying attention to these patterns. The biases aren't separate. They're a system. Present bias makes her prioritize this month over next year. Loss aversion makes her sell in downturns and hold the wrong things. Social comparison makes her spend on signals instead of on what she actually values. The hedonic treadmill makes every income increase disappear. Status quo bias keeps all of it permanently in place. Together they create what I think of as the financial trance, a state where smart, motivated, financially literate people make decisions systematically misaligned with their goals without knowing it's happening. Sarah has been in the trance since she got her first paycheck. And here's the part that changes everything. The people who escape it are not smarter. They're not more disciplined. They're not made of different material. They've built systems that work with cognitive architecture instead of demanding it change. They automate the decisions they can't trust themselves to make in real time. They constrain future choices before present bias hijacks them. They manage their comparison group deliberately. They audit their defaults annually. They've accepted that the problem isn't weakness. The problem is a brain that was designed for a world that no longer exists, and the solution is making the right behavior the path of least resistance. Sarah figures this out at 31. She sets up the automation. She writes the pre-committed investment policy. She unfollows 20 accounts. She schedules the annual audit for the first Sunday in January. She switches to the high-yield savings account that takes her 40 minutes. She doesn't feel dramatically different the next day. But 5 years later, she does. Your brain is not the problem. Your brain is extraordinary at what it evolved to do. The problem is that what it evolved to do and what you need it to do in a modern financial environment are completely different things. Understanding that gap and building specific structures to bridge it is the difference between people who know what they should do with money and people who actually do it. 5 biases. 5 overrides. Present bias. Automate the decision before it can be overridden in real time. Loss aversion. Write the investment policy before the panic, not during it. Social comparison. Manage your comparison group deliberately and recalibrate against reality. Hedonic treadmill. Capture income growth before lifestyle inflation claims it. Status quo bias. Schedule the annual audit and treat it like a medical appointment. None of these require extraordinary discipline. None of them require you to become a different person. They require you to build structures that are smarter than your default settings. You are going to leave this video feeling motivated. That motivation will last a few days. Then present bias will reassert itself and the status quo will restore. That's normal. That's what brains do. The only move that creates permanent change is using this window right now, while the inside is fresh, to put one system in place. Not 5. 1. Automate one transfer. Write one investment policy. Cancel one subscription you haven't used this month. One system that runs whether you're motivated or not is worth more than 50 plans that require sustained motivation to execute. Sarah knows this now. Your brain is trying to keep you comfortable. Build systems that are smarter than your brain. Start today.